Hi, my name is Megan Franco, Assistant Principal at both Northeast and Northwest Schools. Today, I'm going to be presenting on Core Knowledge Language Arts, otherwise known as CKLA. It's the English language curriculum that District 124 has adopted this year. Before we dive into the curriculum, we're going to talk a little bit about the statistics behind reading in the United States. How did we get here? The ugly truth. So, currently, 63% of all fourth graders read below grade level. 64% of all eighth graders read below grade level. 21% of adults in the United States are illiterate, and 54% of adults have literacy level below the sixth grade reading proficiency. So, when we look at reading and how we teach students how to read, we can trace it back starting as early as the 1800s. And it's something that they've coined the reading wars. So, typically two schools of thought. Starting as early as the 1800s, there's been a great debate on the right way to teach children how to read. Horace Mann, who's a politician known as the father of education, warned people not to teach students to sound out words because it took away from their reading. Instead, they should memorize words by sight. He believed that learning to read came naturally and children learn by looking and then saying. On the other side of the coin, people believed in teaching students how to phonics, the relationship between letters and sounds. It was believed that we first learn the relationship between letters and sounds to read. So this debate continued for years with the whole language approach prevailing in most cases. So the approach that students should be memorizing words, and the more exposure students have to words, the more they're going to pick up on reading naturally. So in the 1960s, scientists started to study how students learn to read, and evidence started to show that whole language approach wasn't enough. Both schools of thought continued to be practiced throughout the United States until the 1990s in California. And in response to really low reading scores, they introduced something what we call now the balanced approach to reading, or balanced literacy, which incorporated both phonics and whole language into reading instruction. So since then, scientists have continued to build upon the evidence of how students read and have developed what is now coined the science of reading. What science has discovered is that in order to effectively teach children to read, we need more. We can't just have teaching phonics and teaching rote memorization of sight words. We need phonemic awareness, we need phonics, we need fluency, vocabulary, comprehension, background knowledge. We'll dive a little bit deeper into this in the next slide. So within CKLA, our English Language Arts curriculum, they provided us this visual. So really there's two strands um, of skilled reading. There's language comprehension, which includes language, vocabulary, sentences, reasoning, mental model, and there's also word recognition, the sounds, the letters, words. All of these things together, increasingly strategic, is how students become skilled readers. The second visual you'll see is Dr. Hollis Scarborough's reading rope, which provides a powerful illustration of the multiple strands of proficient reading as well. The rope model unravels the critical skills of word recognition and language comprehension. So, very similar to the visual that we see that our curriculum has provided us. So, knowing this, when we think of reading, we want to think of it as a suitcase that really requires two keys to open it. The first is word level decoding that becomes automatic and fluent. The second key is language, vocabulary, and domain specific knowledge, and the micro comprehension skills to build a good mental model of what we're reading. So let's take an even closer look at the different skills in the word recognition strand of the rope. The first is phonemic awareness. Phonemic awareness is the ability to identify and manipulate the sounds in spoken language. It's a critical skill for developing reading and writing abilities. Activities at home that you can do at home to increase phonemic awareness, and many activities that we participate in class are activities such as rhyming, blending, segmenting words, breaking them apart. All of these things increase and improve phonemic awareness. The second thing you'll hear people talk about is phonics. So, phonics is just the relationship between letters and sounds. Also an essential component of learning to read. Phonics instruction teaches students how to decode words and develop reading fluency. So, as we talk a little bit more about decoding, I want to look at this example that really illustrates why decoding is so important. So, both phonemic awareness and phonics are the tools needed to help students decode words. So, here you see that the words below are English, but the letters are symbols we don't understand. It's also written from right to left. So, it's completely different than the English language that we know today. But it goes to show how important it is for students to know the symbols that go with words and the symbols that go with sounds in the English language. Furthermore, English is one of the most complicated languages to learn because of the multiple sounds that can be associated with a letter or a group of letters blended together. So let's start by looking at the letter P. In Spanish, the letter P makes one sound. In English, it can make multiple sounds. So we have P, like as in pen. It can make the F sound, like as in photo, or it can be silent, like as in pterodactyl. Some letters are even more unpredictable, like the letter E. A mystery word begins with the letter E. What sound does the word begin with? Before I even turn the slide, come up with a few on your own. So there's at least 6 possibilities of sounds that can be associated with the letter E. So kids can't just learn that E makes the eh sound in end. That's a good start though, but they have to learn each specific pattern. It can make eh, e, a, I, and so on and so forth. So now that we've talked about phonemic awareness and phonics, it leads us to fluency. When you have a strong phonemic awareness and strong phonics, you're able to decode words. The stronger you are at decoding words, the more fluent you become. It's the ability to read smoothly, accurately, and with expression. When you don't have to worry about decoding, you can then pay attention to what text is saying and comprehension. Strategies for improving fluency would also be repeated oral readings of a text and modeled reading. Many times in class, especially in our CKLA curriculum in grades 3 through 5, teachers are reading texts that are higher than a student's reading level to model that fluency of text and have those deeper discussions. The next component of science of reading is vocabulary. It's the understanding of the meaning of words. So, to learn vocabulary, we need to have high quality, language rich interactions and instruction. We need to explicitly build students' recognition of shared morphemes, root words, affixes, prefixes across words, both in oral and written language. An example of shared morphemes would be the prefix cent. It usually means 100 when put in the beginning of a word. Centipede, centimeter. Learning these prefixes and suffixes helps students identify the meaning of a variety of different words. And then we go to comprehension. So now that we understand phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, and vocabulary, let's take a closer look at comprehension. One of the largest differences in CKLA from other curriculums is its emphasis on building background knowledge. It is a huge part of the curriculum and something I'll explain to a great extent in upcoming slides. Both background knowledge as well as the skills that fall under the Common Core state standards help students learn how to comprehend text. So, for example, some of the skills that are outlined in the Common Core state standards are things like determining the main idea of text, figuring out the theme or the message of a story, retelling a story, sequencing the story, and the structure. Is it a cause and effects text? Is it descriptive, etc.? So I thought this quote does a great job of explaining the importance of background knowledge. Students can acquire background knowledge from their prior experiences, but also through text. It reads, the more knowledge a child starts with, the more likely she is to acquire yet more knowledge. She'll read more and understand and retain information better, because knowledge, like Velcro, sticks best to other related knowledge. As I read this text, think about if you understand what I'm reading. You know the code, but you need the background knowledge to understand the text. England's openers labored 34 balls before scoring their first boundary as Strauss cracked 2 fours through the leg side. Cook made a patient start before motoring past his skipper. I know myself, if I was reading this text without the visual, I would think it had something to do with a boat when it talks about motor, skipper, and words like that. So as we see, it's the background knowledge that really gives students a really strong ability to be able to read and understand text. Let's look at another example. Researchers gave this to students who were both weak and strong readers. They expected the strong readers to reconstruct the text better. This text is a low-level text that contains vocabulary and background knowledge related to baseball. You can pause the presentation now if you'd like to take a moment to read the text. So, make a prediction. Which reader was able to better reconstruct the story? Strong readers? Readers with good knowledge of baseball? Or it didn't really make a difference at all? Researchers were surprised to find, and you can look at the graph to notice that reading ability had little impact on how well kids understood the story. However, knowledge of baseball did. So what does this mean for kids? If those same kids or kids you teach were taking a state test or the SAT or any other standard test of comprehension, and the passage just happened to be about baseball, they would outperform everyone else. But on topics they knew little about, they would fare much worse. So, again, prior knowledge creates a scaffolding for information in the memory. So, another reason we really need background knowledge is because writers leave out information they assume their readers know. We inference. We need to have rich vocabulary and background knowledge immediately to aid in the comprehension of a text. When you look at a word like sacrifice, it has multiple definitions, and we need to know most knowledge for comprehension needs to be in your head, available immediately as you're reading it. So now that we have a strong understanding of the science of reading, what does this mean for District 124, and what does it look like in our ELA curriculum? Our ELA curriculum is now comprised of two strands, the skills strand and the knowledge strand. Skills is phonological and phonemic awareness, phonics, print concepts, grammar, writing mechanics, comprehension, spelling. Knowledge is comprised of background knowledge and vocabulary. So in a curriculum that's aligned to the science of reading, we should see, and we do see, for example, in our K-2 curriculum within CKLA, we have one lesson a day, one in skills, in the skills strand, and one that builds background knowledge in the knowledge strand. In grades 3 to 5, we see lessons that combine skills and knowledge with increasingly complex text, close reading, and a closer emphasis on writing. In grade 3, oral texts are read aloud at a higher reading level. So oral texts are read aloud, and then students are asked to go off and are doing more independent work and taking closer dives into texts. Across the board with science of reading, we should see more high quality conversations about text being had within classrooms. There should be a focus on language, structure, and deepened understanding. We should have high level vocabulary being used and connected to one another through shared morphemes, decoding, which is being taught systematically, phonics being taught sequentially, rich, complex text for all students, and multiple reads of the same text. So some of the resources that CKLA provides for our students, and in K-2, they have knowledge strand activity books, skilled strand student readers, and skill strand activity books. In grades 3 to 5, they have student readers and activity books. The assessments that we had that are provided through CKLA are mid and end of the unit assessments. There's spelling assessments, grammar morphology assessments, reading comprehension assessments, and writing assessments. You'll notice that CKLA goes into a lot of topics regarding various cultures, historical events, and varying beliefs. They do this to expose students to a wide variety of background knowledge, preparing them to be global citizens as well as efficient readers. It's important to note that as we expose students to various cultures and beliefs through CKLA, we are not promoting one culture over another or encouraging students to practice these different beliefs. Pause and take a moment to notice some of the various topics covered across grade levels. Please take another moment to read the topics covered in grades 3 through 5. So here are also some additional resources to help you at home support your young readers. One of the things to increase background knowledge, there's a website called The Kids Should See This. Something you can do is knowing whatever the topic is that students are taking a deeper dive into. You can many times search for the topic in this website, and it'll provide a variety of videos, usually anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes, that give kids some additional context or information related to that topic that's engaging for students. Some additional resources for building background knowledge, you want to activate prior knowledge. So if you're reading a text on lions, what do we already know about lions? Where do they live? What do they eat? What is their behavior like? What is their habitat? We also want to explicitly teach new knowledge. We want to connect vocabulary. An EL strategy that we use is we put up a picture of the topic that we'll be discussing or learning about, and kids are asked to put words related to that picture. And as we continue through a unit, students start acquiring new vocabulary related to the topic and adding it to the picture. Another thing we can do, use our picture books. It gives kids a great visual of what they're learning about. Read on a topic from multiple sources. Read articles, graphic novels, poems, etc. The more rich text that kids are exposed to, the better readers they become. We also want, when it's possible, connect to sensory experiences, watch videos, connect with experts, go on field trips if possible. And then more on the word recognition side of things and phonemic awareness, there are activities you can do at home and that can become part of your daily routine. Rhyming words in your daily routines, singing songs, clapping out syllables of words, calling out first sounds in a name, and seeing how many additional words you can think of. So, cat, clock, club, and you can go on and see how far you can get with your student. You could also pass a ball, saying the sounds of a word with each pass. Ball, buh, pass the ball, and so on and so forth. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching this presentation and for your dedication to your child's education. We are committed in District 124 to continuing to build the relationship between home and school, as well as maintaining open lines of communication. Please reach out to your child's teacher with any questions, as well as the building level administration and district office. Thank you so much. We also hope in the future to continue these parent education videos so that you can become more involved and aware of the curriculums that we're using in our classrooms.